Life in the military. It's one of the most celebrated, folklorish lives that you can choose. And what's interesting about military life is it's a little polarizing because there's the opinion that you join the military to avoid things or you join the military to run towards things. Either way, a person who chooses to wear the uniform of their nation, to take up the mantle of protecting your nation, or at least the notion of it, even if your motivation is to pay for school, or because you don't know what you're doing, or because it's been a lifelong dream. Being in the military has so many stories that can be associated with it. Now, what's important to understand is that if you choose to be in the military for an extended period of time, it changes you, just like anything that you do for an extended period of time. And so for today's conversation, I have a retired military serviceman and his wife, who's active duty military. They discuss how life is different, how life functions on the two sides of the coin of active duty military and retired military, especially after you served your professional adult life as a soldier. Today, retired Sergeant Sidney Chatman and his wife, active duty Sergeant Jennell Chatman, join us to talk about the life on both sides of the coin. It's absolutely worth it. And you can take this information and use it to build a greater appreciation for the life of a soldier. Let's go. And today on Voices, I have a fantastic friends plural, that I'm going to have a conversation with. In my past life, I once was in the U.S. military. I'm quite proud of that. And since this is the time of the year in the fall where people really have a lot of holidays specifically to recognize and acknowledge the work and efforts of the U.S. soldier, I have on today retired Sergeant Sidney Chatman and his wife, Sergeant Jennell Chatman. And we're going to talk about military life, living life on both sides of the coin. And I specifically use the word coin because if you're in the military, you understand the significance of a military coin. So with that, Jennell and Sidney, I want to thank you both for being on. And it is my opinion that no one can provide a greater introduction for themselves outside of themselves. So I'm going to let Sidney go first, and then Jennell, I want you to clean up whatever he missed.
What's going on, Lou, man? Like Lou said, my name is Sidney Chatman. I retired from the military July 2018, actually, about a month after my 20-year mark. So it's about 20 years and 1 month of fun and not so fun service. We live in Florida now. I'm originally from Louisiana, and yeah, that's a little bit. I think Jennell will go next.
Okay. My name is Sergeant Jennell Chatman. I am currently serving in the Air Force. I've been in for a little over 17 years, so 3 more to go before I'm able to join my husband in retired life. If you hear a baby in the background, that's our baby, so just excuse him.
Oh, he's absolutely welcome.
Okay.
His name is Sidney too, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, so that's awesome. So to give a little bit of a background of how Sidney and I know each other, because I knew Sidney first, and then I was fortunate enough to see Sidney get happy, and then he introduced me to Jennell, who later became his wife. But I met Sidney. He was the first person I met in the military, actually. When I went active duty, he was my sponsor. When I joined the Air Force a while ago, and it was really interesting. A quick story, and I still remember it to this day. It's the most vivid thing. And Sid, you can jump in here if you want, and Jennell, you might sort of have an impression of what happened. What Sidney was in England. He was stationed in England in the Eastlands, and I remember the first time either I called him or he called me, and I was at my house, at my mom's house. And he was like, hey, man, I'm Sidney, whatever. Hey, man, I'm going to be your sponsor, etc. I'm like, all right, cool. And he was like, all right. And then we just both got off the phone. It was like a really short conversation.
True story.
And then, so I arrived. And the crazy part is, so I left from D.C. So I left from Baltimore. My mom drove me to the airport. It was the most horrible drive off of the 495 loop to DWI. I get on the airplane, and it's a military airplane because we flew into the part that had that received the not commercial flights, but it received military passenger flights. And I got there, and I felt, and if I remember this like yesterday, I fell asleep on the shoulder of a major. Right, so I'm an airman, and I fall asleep on the shoulder of the major, and the dude just let me sleep on him like the whole flight. It was hilarious. I get off the plane. And I've never been in a military airport before. So I get off and I'm in England. I'm like, what is this? And Sidney is sitting there leaning on his car. And I look at his car, and his car was different than everyone else's because he had it's right-hand drive in England. Yeah, it's right-hand drive in England. He had a left-hand drive car. So I'm like, yo, is something? I was like, if I'm not mistaken, I say, hey man, why is your car different? He's like, hey, I bought my car from America, or you bought it there and they shipped it. And then we drove, and when we drove, I was sleepy, but when we got in the car, because it was the opposite side, I was on the side facing the traffic, so it scared me like nobody's business. I'm like, dude. And then Sidney was driving fast, right? Because you could just drive whatever there. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna die. What's going on?
Come on, bro.
And it was crazy because we drove to the base. We checked in. Checked in. I got my room, and then Sid hit me up. He's like, "Yo, man, you want to go to London?" And I was like, "All right." And so I get in the car and go to London. So like, it helped me get over sort of the being freaked out by the right-hand drive thing. But then we hit this roundabout when we got to London. It was the biggest roundabout I had ever seen, and Sidney just shot out in there, and I'm on the side that's receiving the traffic. So I'm like, bruh, I'm about to die, and I just got in the military. What is going on? And it was just the craziest day because this dude gave me like the first 24 hours was like the most jam-packed 24 hours. I'm like, yo, it was great. What you remember?
All that actually, that's pretty good. I haven't really thought about it too much. Of course, since that happened, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think you were the first person I actually sponsored when I got to England. So it was, I always asked my supervisor, like, how did you sponsor? He always was like, you just get to the point, find out when they're coming, what they like, if they need something, it's, he never really told me, hey, just have a conversation with them. It was like, get to the point. And go. I was like, all right, cool. When did you get in here? Do you need anything? And we were good to go, And the funnier part about that, when you arrived at the airport on Mildenhall that day, most people had like signs and stuff, hey, well, I had not one sign. I literally looked through the window or through the way I pointed, I was like, that's you. He was like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool. Like, it was not, I didn't have a sign say, hey, welcome to England. This, I was like, nah, bro. I pointed, he was like, nah. I was like, all right, cool, let's go. Then after a while, but like you said, it was, I don't know, it seemed like I did what I would want somebody to do for me. I just made sure you had everything that you possibly could need. And we just went from there in London. Hey, I think that's probably the last time I actually drove there because that's a long drive. I think we caught like the trains and stuff after
that point.
That was a long drive, dude. Come on
Man.
But yeah, so that's basically the stuff I remember too.
Jennell, that sound like Sidney? Like something you would do?
He is super random and spontaneous, which is good for me because I'm not that type of person. So yes, that is totally in his character. He's the king of like, hey, let's go here with like no plans. We're just gonna go. So yeah, that totally sounds like him. And also,
Oh boy.
the fact that you didn't have a sign, that's so you,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because
Please.
he literally just, he's so like free flowing and like just like ad lib. So that would totally, whereas me, I would definitely have had a sign because I want to make sure that like you didn't miss me. I'm an over planner, and he does like just enough. So
She would
that
have
is,
signs. She would have had streamers.
yeah.
She would have had like a 2 or 3 person band singing out for you. Oh yeah, she would have had all that.
True.
It's like, I don't know. I went there that morning. I was like, I'm gonna find him regardless. And this just happened as soon as I got there. I was like, oh, that's him right there. Like I was like, that's him. I never seen a picture to do it at all. And it showed up. I was like, yep. I received the head nod of approval. I'm like, let's roll, bro.
And we'll come back to like the time in England later because like just there's so many stories from that because Jennell, like you said, were you talking about going on random trips? There was a trip where we took it was really the most random trip ever where we went to Milton Keynes just out the blue. But we'll talk about that story later because it was just hilarious, but it's exactly what Sidney does. But because the military people are revered and held into sort of a different standard, sort of I think socially and in the community. For both of you, what was your reasoning for joining? Like for me, quickly, the reason I joined is because 9/11 happened. I'm from New York. That day of 9/11, my aunt worked in the World Trade Center at the time, but that day she actually was late for work because she had forgotten something. So she went back home to go get it and then got back on the train. And when she got back on the train, I think the first plane had hit. And then for her, it was you call it what it will, but it was fortunate that she didn't go to work that day.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad also worked at City Hall in New York as well because they both lived in Brooklyn, so they both had to take the train. And my father had just arrived at City Hall at the time, and the planes had hit. And my dad is a photojournalist. He a little touched. I love him, but this dude literally, and I'm not lying to you, he's random too. So as the people were running out of New York because they closed all the car traffic, they were walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, and he was standing on like a pillar on the bridge, taking photos of the people coming. I mean, it's historic, so I kind of get it. But in the same breath, the dude was like, "Hey, man, you know, I see this tragedy, but I'm gonna take these photos."
You have to remember this one day.
Well, I mean, and it's funny because my father has a lot of photos about just life events. But for you, what was your motivation for joining the military?
Um, so mine was, um, it was two. It was two things. So firstly, I grew up in Chicago on the South Side, and so I wasn't exposed to a lot of opportunity to kind of like leave, and get out. Like a good majority of people who I grew up around stayed there, right? So I joined the military. I actually came in through the Army National Guard, and I went to boot camp in between my junior year of high school, senior year of high school, and I went to Oklahoma for a boot camp. Stayed there until like all of my summer. And I remember, even though like it was boot camp and it sucked, like I was like, you know what, this is what I want. I want to get out of Chicago. I knew that it wasn't like, I think that if I would have stayed in Chicago, I would have had limited amount of opportunity, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
also I wanted money for college, so I wanted to go to school, and not have to worry about um, loans. And like my parents were like middle class, so they were like, yeah, we'll help you out, but they were barely making ends meet. So I didn't want to put that additional burden on them. So I joined for opportunities to get out and travel and leave, and branch out and see other parts of the world besides Chicago, and maybe like all of the surrounding area, and also for college money too.
That's awesome.
True story. And myself, I have several small reasons. I guess you were saying like one really big reason. Some like well, Jennell grew up in Chicago, but I grew up in Monroe, Louisiana. It wasn't much going on in that, like say in that area. And once I graduated high school, I was like, yeah, me in school just is not happening. I actually applied for a few scholarships through ROTC, which I was in for like 3 years, like my whole high school tenure, and I think I got a few of them like approved, I guess you would say. But I literally looked up not one school. I was interested in LSU. A lot of my friends were going there. I went there for like a good a few days just to like chill with them and saw how it was. I'm just like, yeah, the party is cool, but I don't want to do no more schoolwork. Like I was literally done, like burnt out. 12 long years, man. So and I kind of wanted to just get out of that Louisiana area. Like it was just nothing going on for me there. And I was the youngest of four boys. All my brothers had already like moved out the house. They were all already gone. Two of my older brothers actually joined the army. And so I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And the main reason I probably did join the Air Force was because they told me they'll beat me up if I join the army. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I can join the Air Force, get out, see the world. I have a steady job, a steady paycheck, and I ended up going to Altus, Oklahoma for my first base, which was not what I wanted to see, of the world, but it was still a good assignment.
Right. And Jennell brought something up that I think is valuable, because I have a question about something she asked. I was going to ask a question about boot camp, but Jennell, you said you did boot camp between your junior and senior year in high school. I didn't know they did that. So how exactly did that happen for you?
So when I was a junior in high school, they made everybody take the ASVAB test. Mm-hmm. So, and then I guess I had some pretty decent scores because the Army recruiter called me and was like, hey, like you got some really good scores. Have you ever considered joining the military? And then he was like, we do the GI Bill and all that. So I'm like, well, that don't sound half bad. So I went ahead and enlisted, and I was in the delayed entrance program. And he was like, there's an option that the Army has for you to do split training. So what that is you enlist, and then between your junior year and of high school and senior year, starting your senior year, you go to boot camp. And then after you graduate, you would go to AIT, or like your job training. So that's what I ended up doing. And I think that's a program that only the Army had. I don't even know if it's even still around, but I just wanted to kind of have that GI Bill money ready, because once I went to boot camp, I was enlisted and I was assigned to a unit. So then I would do my whole year, so that when I got out and done with my AIT or my training, then my college money would be ready for me, because you had to stay in for a year. So that was kind of my mindset, was that like I might have to start college late, but at least it would be paid for and covered. So.
And so what was your senior year like after that? Because I can only imagine finishing your junior year, going your summer, doing boot camp, and then coming back. Because I know boot camp changed me when I came back from boot camp. So how was like your senior year in high school because of it?
So that was a long time ago. But I do remember feeling very accomplished and confident. So like when I came back, people were like, oh, like, what did you do? What did you do over the summer, right? And I was like, well, I was, down in freaking Oklahoma, going through boot camp and, scaling towers and, all that kind of stuff. So, I think it was sorry, the baby is doing stuff over here, but, I think it was a confidence builder, and I came back feeling like I could accomplish anything, and that I was just going to go ahead and knock out this last year of high school, and it wasn't going to be a problem. So I think it helped boost my confidence up a whole lot.
And why did you choose the Air Force? Because Sidney said why he chose it. So why did you choose the Air Force? Because it sounded like you went to an Army boot camp and then you still ended up in the Air Force.
So actually,
she got smart.
When I was in senior year of high school, I was in ROTC also, and one of our long division periods, we had an Air Force recruiter come and talk to us. So I knew from going to boot camp that I was definitely going to probably pursue the military full time after I graduated. So I was like, okay. So the Air Force recruiter came, and I was like, this sounds like a lot more my speed than the Army was. And, because it sounded like, they were more, what am I trying to say? Like, business minded, and like, it just seemed like it was a better fit for me. So I ended up talking to the recruiter. I had a recruiter that was like literally like right up the street from my house, and I went green to blue. So I had a list of jobs that I could choose from, and they had to conditionally release me from the Army. And I was able to get my job, and then I left. Actually, it's a pretty funny story. So I joined, and then I want to say September 11th happened either when I think I was a senior in high school, something like that. So I didn't know, but my unit in the Army was like ramping up to actually go to Iraq. So,
oh, wow.
But I had no idea, right? I was like 17, 18 years old. I was not tracking on like national defense stuff, all that. So the Air Force just seemed like a better fit for me. But my mom and dad were kind of upset because, me leaving meant that I wouldn't start school right away. So I went into to Lackland, I think it was March of 2003. And February 2003, my old unit deployed to Iraq. And they were one of the first units that were boots on ground when we first started the operation there. So, I said I didn't know, I wasn't, running from anything. I just felt that the Air Force would be a better fit for me. And honestly, it's probably been one of the best decisions of my life. I've really had a lot of good experiences and travels and everything else. And I met my wonderful husband. So,
That's the best part.
So, I definitely don't regret it at all. Best decision I ever made.
Your transition skills are perfect, because my next question was actually about the places you've been stationed. Okay. So for that question, it's interesting because I got out the military before Sidney did, but when I got out, I went to visit this guy every base he was located at, like every place. So when he was in Idaho, I was in Idaho. I remember when I went there, and people were like, "Why are you going to Idaho?" I'm like, "My homeboy is there." And when he was in California, I went to California. I think were you stationed? I think you were just in one place, but you was there for a little while. Yeah. When you went to Germany, I was there. And I haven't been to you when you were in Vegas. I haven't been to Florida because you're not actually technically stationed, but I'll be there eventually. Hey, so
doors always open, man.
Sidney, well, thank you, Sidney. I'm gonna let you sort of lead this one off on. So, maybe not where you've been stationed, but what are your favorite places that you've been stationed? And Jennell, you can kind of follow up, because it's gonna tie into the next thing about you two in the next question.
Whew, let's see. I would probably have to say my best place that I've ever been stationed has to be Germany. Like, I don't know, just something about that country. It's full with like a lot of history, and it's just almost every city that you go to, you learn something new about, like, about the history of like what happened there. And I honestly, I just love to travel. And there it was really easy to either get around by airplane or by like driving. It was never any hassle. Some weekends I just picked a city and I just took off. Just at random. I would ask a few people, like, hey, I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to Berlin this weekend, which is like a 6 or 7 hour drive, if I remember correctly. Y'all can go. There were some people like, yeah, no. I was like, I'm leaving like 4 o'clock Saturday morning. Either you're gonna be up or not. It's like I kept it real simple, because after a while you get tired of waiting on people to do stuff. And so I just like, hey, y'all want to come? Yes or no? They're like, yeah, of course we'll come. They're like, can we leave at like 9 or 10? Like, damn, bro, traffic gets on bad. I just like to get to the places that I'm getting to, have fun, because you still got to drive back. So I would literally have to say, Germany was probably my best assignment that I've had in my 20 years.
Awesome. Jennell?
Okay, so I have to agree with Sidney. I actually stayed in Germany for 2 tours at 2 different bases. But I think that Germany is so good because of the proximity. So it's pretty centrally located in Europe. So with Ryanair, or just you driving or taking like the ICE train, a lot of Europe is accessible to you, so like whether that's Paris, or you want to go to Rome, or you want to go to Switzerland to go ski, or like or wherever, like it's so much. And I think that when you're studying like world history and everything else, like did you ever think that you would go and actually see the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin? Like that's the kind of stuff that you only can read about or see on like the internet or whatever. But being in Germany, like you're in such close proximity to a lot of historical places, and my favorite city in the whole world is Paris. So it's beautiful. So I think that I stayed there for 6 years, and I think that me and Sidney both would go back in a heartbeat. Heartbeat.
I'll go without her, actually.
But that's where you guys met too.
Yes, it was.
So it has a little bit of an advantage over everyone else. Which a quick story about that. I remember when I came to visit you for when you were in Germany, and you and Jennell were, I think you guys were dating at the time. And yeah, you were dating because Jennell came over to the house, and I was going through a situation, but it was my birthday, so it was cool because you guys, like, the situation I was going through in life was beating me up, and you guys had such awesome energy that it was just amazing. And then Sidney did randomly do this, because me and Sidney have done this tons of times. She's like, hey man, you want to go to Frankfurt? I was like, yeah, and we just left like the next night and went. So I remember that, and Germany was awesome. So yeah, I agree with that. But it actually leads me to a different question about the lead-in on that one. Relationships in the military. I mean, obviously, if we talk about, like, there's jokes out there, some people see it, some people don't, of when people join the military, they want to get married fast as possible. People don't understand sort of the premise behind that. It's like the military to military marriage. The military gives you more stipend money or something like that for you to be married. So then if you're like a low-ranking person, you can make more money, and it affords you the opportunity to live off of the base. For you guys, what was like something that that drew you to each other, because you're both in the place that clearly you were excited about being in, but you were both living your lives. So what made you say, hey, I like this person, and I'm in the military, so I'm gonna just be military to military with this person?
Bruh, let's see. See, you ain't hit me with that question earlier. Honestly,
well, Jennell can go first if she wants.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I think with me and Jennell, when I met her, I had just got out of a relationship. I say I was for about six-ish months, you know. And I hadn't been in a relationship after that previous one for about three or four ish months, I think, maybe. And so I was just like, I wasn't really looking to like get into a relationship. I just kind of like whatever happens, and I just love to meet people. Period. I don't care where I'm at. I can hold a conversation or at least talk to anybody. And so when I met Jennell, it was actually at a softball game, which I had never ever met anyone like dating wise or relationship wise at any type of sporting event. It was always go there, get the job done, and just like leave. Um, but yeah, when I met her, it was just she seemed so, I guess, focused. She seemed like she knew where she was like going. And like she when we had our first initial conversation, it was just so easy to talk to her. Um, a complete stranger, and and I found out that she was in a job that I actually had a few friends that worked with her.
So then he checked up on
First
me.
off, I was talking, so
He checked up on me.
I
Make sure
did
you say
I
that
did
part.
not check up on her. Okay, I did check up on her, but it was just to make sure she wasn't crazy, because I had just left a little bit of craziness, and I didn't feel like going back through that. I mean, it is what it is. um, like I said, we had a few conversations here and there, talking on the phone and stuff like that. And it's just that she was so focused on her goals. She knew what she wanted out of life. And it was never hard to just talk to her. I remember one of the longer conversations we had when we first met. I used to go TDY a lot when I was in Germany. We would go and do like pediatric. I'm sorry. My job in the Air Force was dental assistant, and so I would drive like an hour every other Friday to do pediatric rehabilitation on kids, with like cavities and stuff like that. But it was like an hour drive back and forth from Spangdahlem to Landstuhl, where we used to go. And after I met Jennell, one day I just randomly called her. Sorry, but the little man is having some sleepy issues.
Hey,
Um,
he's allowed to be who he
yeah. So
is.
so yeah, I just randomly call her as I was driving, and we just spoke the whole time. Like, I didn't have nothing to say. We were just talking, and by the time I got off the phone with her, I had pulled into my like driveway, and it was always so easy to talk to her, and just to have a conversation. I just wanted to talk to her more and get to know her better. And yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of it. I'm pretty sure she has some interesting things to say. So
So, so I think that like the whole mill to mill thing for me was like never a problem, because I've seen a lot of relationships. I've been in a minute, so I've seen a lot of them do well and flourish. I've seen a lot of them just not work out so well, and they were both like mill to mill, or like like military to civilian spouse or whatever. So I wasn't really, I knew that like when you talk about relationship and marriage and everything, it's what you make of it, and it's how you sacrifice for the greater good of your marriage to make sure that everything is good. But but when I first met Sidney, he was very like very like laid back, right? So like he's super spontaneous, but just enough of a planner to not pique my anxiety, because I'm a super planner, right? So it's a it's a good balance, right? So like I'll give you a good example. So when we went on our first vacation, I think we went to Spain. Yeah, it was Spain. So like I was trying to, or maybe it was the trip to the Canary Islands, but either way, I can't fully remember where we went. But like I was trying to plan like 2 or 3 events a day, like, and like I was going crazy on the plan. And so he was like, hey, he was like, one thing a day. He said one thing a day, and one day I have to just be able to sleep. Right. So I mean, so like he definitely balances my like overthinking craziness out because he's so laid back and so spontaneous and just uh free flowing. Whereas, like I said, I am the Uber planner, like the plan 4 and 5 times and plan A, B, C, D, and E. That's me. But when we met, he told me this. Now I'm not sure how true this is, but he said that the reason why he even noticed me was because I threw away a Subway cookie, and that was perfectly good food, right? So, so so I can't tell you like how much that has been like true for him. Like he hates to waste food. So he said that's the he said I noticed you originally because you threw away a Subway cookie. And I'm like, really?
That is true.
So all of this happened because I was trying to eat before. I think it was either like before a game or we had like a doubleheader or something, right? And I was on like the D League softball because I wasn't good at all. I was terrible, right? But but you know, he's very he's he balances me out really really well, and he's easy to talk to also, and he's very funny. Some of his jokes are a little corny, but
Working on my dad jokes, bro.
I love them. I love them. I love how he calms me down, and he still to this day makes me laugh even if it is a corny joke. And then he definitely he definitely he knows how to if I'm like stressed or something like that, like he knows how to tell me, look, like whatever is going on, it's gonna be okay. So that's kind of what I attribute to us being and having a successful marriage, even in the midst of. I think we were separated for our first year of marriage. We got married. He went to Vegas, and I went back to Germany for an entire year, and that was really hard and difficult. But I think we just kept those communication lines open, and we talked every day, and we texted and FaceTimed and everything, and that's really what what got us through it. So yeah.
And I think that's really cool. You brought up a dynamic of work because I was going towards work because both of you were well, Sydney past tense were, and you are accomplished. You've both risen through the ranks of the military, and you earned different promotions and positions of supervision of other people. And so, with that, I look at that and I say, well, what kind of opportunities do exist in the military that you feel the most thankful for to get you to where you are now?
Um.
Uh, yeah, Jennell, you go ahead first. I figured you was gonna go first, but you go ahead.
So I think that just the military structure, right? So like the structure of the military is basically so that like you own promotion on your merits. For the Air Force, you have to test for every rank up through E6, and then after that rank, trying to make senior NCO or like E7 is a board process. Um, I'm thankful for just like for my job. Um, you're oftentimes given more than what your rank is, right? So like let's say I'm not yet a supervisor, right? Um, but they're looking at me, they're developing me to assume that next rank. And um, so I don't think it's necessarily a position, but I think it's a culture, and it's a way that they train you to do. Here is your standard, but we want you to exceed it. And if you exceed it, then you're ultimately working at your next ranked level anyway, right? So I think it's not necessarily a position, but it's a culture of, we want you to be excellent at your rank and do even more, right? So that you're ready for that next rank when you do get it. And then the way the promotion system is, right? It's not about like it's changed here recently, but it's majority on like how you test and how you prepare yourself um, to get promotion. So, like, you don't have to worry about not being well liked or something like that. Like, it doesn't really matter how necessarily your peers or the people who are above you perceive you. Not necessarily. I mean, that's not all cases, but for the most part, if you come to work and you do great at your job and you test well, then you can make rank first time out if you're focused and you're focused on that goal. So I said I wouldn't say it's necessarily a position or anything. Now there are some positions that are super high vis and can probably get you promoted quick, if if that's your goal though, right? So, but I think it's more or less a culture, and how the people over you uh, kind of prepare you for that next rank so that you are ready when you do get promoted.
Awesome. Sid?
I forgot the question. She went so long.
Well, it was about advancement and just sort of as you both were supervisors of people, what's your perception of the advancement and the development that existed in the military for you?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Honestly, I think Jennell was a lot more, I guess, military than I was or probably will ever be. I was probably one of the ones that I took it serious, meaning like the job that I did and the connections that I made very serious. But I don't think I put enough, I guess, focus into the actual rank making of it. Because actually once I did get serious, I actually made rank, which was pretty funny. But the only reason I did it was because I met her. So that
Oh,
that literally was the probably the only main reason. But for the job aspect, I think that with my job in particular, it's it came off to be a lot about your personality because we saw patients on like a regular. Jennell, she had interactions with a lot of people doing her job, but with me, I had a lot more people come in and see me no matter what part of the dental clinic that I worked in. If it was chairside, you would be the first face that the patient saw when they came into the room because you went out into the waiting area till I get them. So that shaped a lot, I think, of my personality, and it was already a part of my personality to be a very, I guess, outgoing person, to kind of be very personable. Um, but with that, you just have to, I guess, use the personality that you have in order to make yourself succeed.
Yeah,
If you're an outgoing person, if you like to talk, see if you can do things like speaking at public events, trying to get out there to actually do more, like, so people can like see if you're good at paperwork, if you're good at like filing, see if you can do more, like, I guess, um
administrative.
yeah, administrative work. Just kind of makes make sure that you use the skill sets that you have in order to make yourself successful. And I think I did that. um I loved every part of the Air Force. Air Force. Every part of the years that I was actually in the Air Force, that was some few shaky parts here and there, but for the most part, it was a pretty good career.
That's awesome. And you actually helped me create the bridge to the next thing, which is post Air Force life, because you served, you retired, and from my interactions with you while I was active duty and knowing other people, and obviously your wife is military, people liked you in general. So, I mean, you made yourself a well-known and likable person, whether it's in officer ranks, enlisted ranks. It was irrelevant, or even if it was dependent families on the base, because you had a lot of interaction with them. So my question is, what benefits of the military do you miss the most, and what kind of things do you look at Jennell and you're like, man, I wish I still did that? And Jennell is kind of like, well, you don't.
Lord. Bruh, look. So I would probably say the benefits of being active duty versus, I guess, retired or not being a part of the military anymore was just, it was convenience. You can do a lot of stuff from sitting at your desk or near a phone. You can pick up the phone and call somebody halfway across base for an answer to something, versus me sitting at home. I got to pick up Google and try to figure out what city company does what or whatever. So I think a lot of it is just convenience for the military, like active duty men, like personnel. Like you can get so much done. With what the part of the question was?
Well, what did you miss? Just what did you miss about the military?
Nothing. nothing at all. Like,
no other benefits.
The benefits probably outweigh the other stuff, but there's nothing I miss about the military whatsoever. I may once in a while get, like, I guess, homesick, I guess you would say. She comes on, she tells me about like her like different stories and stuff from her like job and stuff like that. When I was active and she was active, we would just come home and just kind of swap stories of like the craziness that happened throughout the day. But now it's like she comes on, she tells me like some stuff that happens with her job, and I just sit there like, well, Lil Man said mama today. It's like that's about it. We watched SpongeBob and Paw Patrol like 1,500 times, and that was about it.
Yeah, and I understand that, and actually, that's why my next question is for Jennell, because Jennell actually had to deal with the transition just like you did, but in a different way, because she had to deal with a husband that went from active duty, living virtually kind of the same life, to a husband who's living a different life. So for Jennell, what was it like to go from having an active duty husband to retired, or as my favorite phrase is, because I'll talk about that later, a dependent husband? What was that like?
Watch those phrases.
Well, when it was time for Sidney to retire, I wanted to give him like a really big, extravagant party, right? So listen to this, Luke. He put me on a budget. He told me that you only have so much, because I was getting ready to go all out. Because, right, like 20 years of service is something that not many people get to, right? A lot of folks don't make it all the way through. It's a lot of sacrifice, and I think that he did himself proud in his military service. But we ended up not being able to do that because my son came early. So, but I have tried to be very supportive of his transition, right? So I think initially the thought was that he would just get out and go to school full time, which was fine. I'm kind of money conscious, so I'm like, okay, we got this mortgage, let's move on base, let's get to a point where we're not struggling. If you choose to get out of the military and you want to go to school, he served for 20 years, So if he had told me I want to just stay home for a few months and just kind of relax, and then I'll figure it out, I tried to be as supportive as possible and try to make it possible for him to do whatever he wanted to, because I think that after 20 years of working and dedicating your life to the military, you deserve a little break, right?
Yeah.
But it ended up that he had to stay home with my son, and well, we chose. You're right. You didn't have to. You chose to be a stay-at-home dad, and to be perfectly honest, I was a little jealous. I wanted to stay home.
I want her to stay home.
With my
Let's be real about this here.
But I just wanted to just go ahead and get my military career, over and done, so that I can focus on other stuff. But I think that his transition went pretty smooth, because he literally, took off his uniform one day and never put it back on. He went from being in the military to, just being on terminal leave, and then, being a veteran, but also a stay-at-home dad. So yeah, and I remember having a conversation. I'm like, "You sure you want to stay home with him full time?" I said, "That's probably not a worse job, but a more demanding job than my job."
Bruh.
Because he's on 24/7. Like, kids don't take a break. They don't care if you didn't have a good day. They gonna pop up at 3 a.m. regardless. So I try to be very very mindful, that he's got probably a tougher job than I do. And I always told him, I'm like, if you need anything, or like if you want to do something, and you need a break, you want me to keep him for all day while you go watch 2 movies, or you want to go fishing, or because we're here in Florida now. I always try to make that possible for him, so that he doesn't get overwhelmed, and he still feels like he contributes, because he does, right? I basically owe him. I think we were looking at hiring a nanny, and she was going to run us $1,600 a month, right? So that's not even to do round the clock care. So I think that stay-at-home parents contribute a lot more than what they get credit for, and I'm grateful to him for putting his career aspirations on hold to care for our son. So his transition, I think, was pretty good, because he's really good with kids even before, and then he's perfect with Sidney now. So and back when he first came home. So I think it wasn't really hard for me. I mean, so for me, it's good. I have the best of both worlds, because he used to be military. So when I come home and I vent, and I'm like, what should I do with this? He's got that perspective, because he's been in for 20 years. So he's a really good sounding board, and he's very understanding when I have to stay late, or when I'm at the gym, or and I don't get home until 6 o'clock sometimes, or when I work shifts and everything else. He's very understanding, and I think it's because he's got that background, and he fully grasps that the military will take you away from your family at times.
And if my timeline is right, you had the baby after Sidney retired. Is that right?
No, so it was so our son was born very premature. He came a whole 4 months early.
Wow.
Yeah.
He would have been born on his birthday.
What?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
No, had he come to term?
Yeah.
He would have been May 25th, right?
It was May 20 something.
Yeah, he'd have been on my birthday. I remember that.
Yes, I remember.
But he had other plans. And
for sure. Yeah.
And he came, as opposed to late May, he came late January. So he was in the hospital up until right after you started terminal leave.
Yeah,
So it was
May
literally perfect timing. Like, and I remember you were going through some rough stuff on your job, and I just couldn't understand. I'm like, what's going on? Like, like, why are they giving you all of this hard time? But I think it was fate. It was meant for you to retire at that time because these issues were going to come up in my pregnancy, and you then were able to step into a full-time caregiver role for him.
Boo.
Oh, so but and the reason I'm asking that is because I remember when Sydney told me you were pregnant, and you guys were like kind of not really eggshells, but you were being like cautious because you just wanted to make sure everything went well, and then obviously you had the baby early. And I remember the phone call because I think I either talked to Sid the day before or the day of, because he texted me and told me that you just had given birth, and he sent me the picture. And I remember seeing a picture of little Sydney. He could probably fit in your hand. He was so little. And I was like, wow. And for me, I mean, I have friends who had babies, but I mean, like, for you two guys, I remember like that was something you guys wanted. And then because I remember he was still in, because I was gonna come visit you guys, because I came to visit I think later on in that year, and but I remember that because I was trying to figure out, did Sydney have to, like, was he active duty and had to take care of Sid? Because I think you were at home for a little while. Is that right, Jennell?
I gave birth late January, and I was on maternity leave. But my entire maternity leave, Sydney was in the hospital because he stayed in the NICU until his due date, which was late May. So he was in the hospital for 4 months before he'd come home. So I think he when he was born, Sidney was still active duty and he was still working. So I mean, it was rough there for a minute because he would have to split his time between going to work, and then like when we would come home, sometimes we would go to the hospital to kind of see the baby. But I think that our both of our jobs were very good with allowing us leave time, especially when I had just had the baby and I was, like I was at home because I had to go back to the hospital for some surgery complications. So for a few days there, Sidney was going to one hospital to see the baby and another hospital to see me, and he was still military active duty. So it was a tough time, but we made it through together, and all three of us are here, so that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Right, because my question was going to be like, what was parenthood like in active duty and sort of post active duty? But for Sid, like, you really didn't get the opportunity to parent while you were active duty, right?
Because like some Jennell said, he was still in the NICU, and by the time he came home, my terminal kicked in. I was just stay at home dad by then. So so I think my terminal was officially over 1 July of 2018.
Yeah.
And so he had been home by then. So not really had a chance to do that parenting while military role. So but Jennell can probably answer that a lot better than I can.
Yeah. So like parenting when you're active duty is probably one of the things that I struggle with the most is trying to find a good balance, right? Balance of work, off duty time, and spending with him, and then you have other goals. So like right now, I'm in school, so I have to dedicate time to schoolwork. So when I come home from work, I have to balance, spending time with hubby and little Sydney, and doing school, and then sometimes, inevitably you have to bring work home sometime. It just depends on what's going on. It's not always, but it does happen. So it's a struggle, but I've definitely sensed that ever since I had the baby, like my ultimate priorities have shifted, right? So before I was all about the military, and like I want to, rise up the ranks fast, and like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm down to go wherever. But now, my first priority is making sure that my family is good, and then if we do a move, is it going to be the best move for all of us, not just for my career, right? So like there are some jobs that'll be super promotable for me, but they would probably take me away from Sydney or both Sydneys. So
Right.
I I choose positions and jobs with them at the forefront. So I think it's changed me a lot, but I said it's a definite challenge to juggle both, right? Because you have a career. I'm in a upper level management job right now, so I lead about 15 people. So that's you're never really off the clock. If something happens or anything, like you may have to get up in the middle of the night and go take care of things or like whatever. But I definitely do try to and it's good that Sydney understands, like sometimes, I may have to work longer, and he's really good at telling me, hey, it'll be there tomorrow. You need to leave. So he's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it helps that I have a spouse that's so understanding and can kind of balance, if I'm doing too much work stuff, he can kind of refocus me and say, hey, like I need you to focus your attention on this because we got this coming up. So it's a challenge, but it really, really helps that Sydney understands um, military life, and my work schedule and everything else. So
And Sydney, I know Sydney and I have joked that you're going to be the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. We're still expecting that of you. We
Facts.
expect you to still have all the stars, with all those things. We expect that of you because we see that you are a high achiever. So we're going to leave that on you. But I know you mentioned something about being a supervisor, and I know Sydney knew about this because when we were stationed together, I lived on base and he lived off base. What's life, basically, the life like as for Sydney now as a civilian? And you obviously as an active duty member, what's the differences in life of living off base and having military responsibilities and living on base, and sort of the balance that you have to have in your life? Sid, I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay. I don't even know how to answer that one. Um, I guess, I guess, I guess living off base versus on base, military and civilian wise. Military wise, living on base, it was always a shorter drive to work.
mm-hmm.
You know, which is a great thing. You save on gas money, all that good stuff. And then on the other part of that, you always tell yourself, well, I live right around the corner.
Yep.
I can stay late a little bit longer because I can get home faster, and towards the end of my tenure, and when we moved on base, I found myself doing it because, I was like, I can just sit at work for another 10, 15 more minutes, and I can just be home in like five minutes. Living off base in the military, you're like, ugh, let me go ahead and close down now because the traffic is about to get bad. It's 4 o'clock, 4:30. You don't want to deal with all the traffic. What if they have like a freaking accident? We still have to find something to eat. All those other factors kind of come into play. Me being a civilian, I don't think it even really compares because I'm always home. There's like, unless unless me and Lil Man have like he has a few like therapy appointments and stuff like that. So unless we have like appointments where we have to go outside, we rarely do because it's like really hot in Florida, and I really hate bringing him outside for too long of a time just because of the high heat and humidity that's down in Florida. Actually, Vegas too. So I think being home, I can get a lot more stuff done if he lets me do it. Sometimes I have ambitions to like get up wash dishes, fold clothes, cook dinner, and I only end up cooking dinner because he didn't like cry for like 2 hours, and that just made both of us just tired. So we took like an hour and a freaking half nap. And by the time I got up, I have to make him some food. Like, it's always something different that happens with him that you think you're like ready for, but you're like, oh man, I'm just tired. We just gonna cook some dinner tonight and call it good. The clothes are like they're at least clean. They might not get folded, but they're in the dryer. We'll get to it this weekend or next month, either or, But yeah, but like that's my life right there. But it's just for me, that's just the differences I see when living on base versus off base, military, civilian. There's a lot more free time being a civilian, but a lot of my free time is taken up because I am taking care of a child. So that
Right.
fills a very big gap. Like Jennell said, about 24 hours of that gap is Sidney, and so my only free time literally when he takes 2 naps a day. And sometimes if I'm getting really really ambitious, I'll get up and I'll like prep food. I'll cut up onions. I'll do all kinds of stuff just for dinner that night. And other nights I'm like, yo, we're just gonna order some pizza, and yeah, we're just gonna call it good because this dude didn't wore me out today.
I get it, man.
That's me.
Jennell?
Okay, so we lived on base in Vegas, and we moved from off base to on base. I was unaware of how emotional it was going to be for me leaving our first house, because that was our first house that we had purchased together as a married couple. And it was so many good memories there. So and then I think we had moved from like almost a 3,000 square foot house to about 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, that was rough.
So,
Wow.
so I struggled at first to kind of just get adjusted, but I think that in Vegas, and in here, you have a lot of those services, like people, they'll come to your house and wash your car. They'll bring you food and everything else. And like grocery delivery, you can't get that on base because people have to be able to get on base. And if they don't have a reason to be there, or some kind of or if the person isn't a vet or they don't have base access, then you've got to meet them at the gate, or you can't get that service at all. So that's one of my biggest hangups about living on base. I remember when we were getting ready to bring Sidney home, I was trying to get the carpets done.
Oh yeah.
And it was a big issue because the dude couldn't get on base. And I remember telling Sidney, I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, all I wanted to do is shampoo the carpet so that my son that's been in the NICU for the past 4 months doesn't come home to random crap all in the air, all in the carpet, So and maybe it's my over planning, overbearing mom brain, but I was thinking that something could have happened, or he could have had a respiratory problem or whatever, right? But we couldn't get anybody. We couldn't get nobody that could come on base to get our carpets clean, and I was a little annoyed with it. So those are some of the cons, I would say, but for the most part, the housing on base is pretty decent. We're actually going to move on base again here in 2 weeks. So the housing that we're getting ready to move to on base is really good. It's practically brand new, and it's really almost equal to the size of the house that we live in now, and we're going to save like $400 so a month on just the rent alone. So I think that it's very cost efficient to live on base, because usually the Air Force gives you like a limit on your water and your electricity that they cover, so you don't have to pay anything. unless you go over, right? But they usually give you a pretty good allowance, right? So it's good for that. Um, Usually you're safer on base because people have to get through the gate, and you're on a federal installation. So your chances of like your car getting broken into or like somebody robbing you is very slim. Now I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's a lot less likely. So it's safer, like you notice that kids will be out walking around because it's base and it's usually safe. So and Sydney is absolutely right. You definitely get lulled into the like I'm just around the corner so I can stay at work, or I can go in to knock some work out, like maybe on like times when I'm off, like on a weekend. Whereas usually I wouldn't even think about it because that drive is just too far. So I think that you really
Yeah.
have to be aware that or be cognizant and mindful of how much time you give off duty just because you can. So, I often equate it to, okay, like, do I want to stay at work a little later and knock it out, or do I want to come in over the weekend? And usually I just want to stay at work and knock out stuff. And then that way I'm free to be with my family over the weekend without any interruptions. So um, but there's that but there's a lot less food places on base, right? I think when when we moved from our house off base to Vegas, I joked that we moved to the hood, right? Because it was nothing. It was no like good and we went like I think the place that we were at, when we were off base, we were within like 10 minutes of like really good Mexican like ramen places, like Greek, all kinds of stuff. And then you moved on base and it was like Taco Bell, like Charlie's, and then like one decent Thai place right out the gate. Like, and that's it. But then everything else you had to drive like 15 minutes up the road. It was a lot less resources right around the base because in Vegas around the base was hood and a lot of drugs, a lot of crime. So so nothing was really over there. So I mean, so like not as many amenities, but I think that it's really cost effective, because you don't have any bills. You don't have a whole lot of bills. I remember our light bill in Vegas one month was like $300. Crazy. It was crazy expensive. Whereas when we went on base, we didn't have a light bill at all. So, um, so yes, I mean, I think there are some pros and cons, but overall, base living isn't terrible. It's not terrible.
It's decent.
I I think it's funny because I remember when I came to visit you guys last year, and Sidney said that to me. He was like, "Hey man, all right, so the base near the hood." I'm like, "Man, what are you talking about, man? It's a military base. Why would it be near the hood?" And then I saw it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Because but so it's amazing to me because I thought your house size was pretty nice. I mean, I guess you guys wanted a bigger house. Well, you had a
That's
bigger
the
house
part.
because when I visited, that was
Yeah.
base housing, right?
Yeah.
And then when I think Sid, did you show me the house where you guys lived before? I think you did show me where you lived
Okay.
before when
I
I was there.
probably did a drive by because I missed it
Yeah.
a lot. Like I said, the house, like I said, the house that we moved from, it was nice, but it was 3 floors. The very top floor was basically my man area. There was like a bedroom. There was a full bath, and I didn't have to bother Jennell like watching movies or playing my video game or nothing. I can just go upstairs, like I'll be upstairs for a few hours by, you know. But that's that was just that space. It was great that we had it, and then when we didn't have them, we just like, ugh, what, like, where do I go to get away from you now?
I feel like I've been to that house, but because the layout sounds familiar, but it is what it is. But my actual follow up question to that is talking about being off of base. I know that you're retired and you all have a
Right.
son now. And Jennell said she has about 3 years, which is not saying she's going to retire in 3 years, but she's eligible to get the full retirement for herself in those three
She's not.
years. So that would make Sydney about that would make Sydney about
Yeah.
4 or 5. So my question actually is, he'll be in school at
Mm-hmm.
that point. What you adult father Sydney, what do you see for you next after he's in school? And Jennell, like when you hit that 20-year threshold, like what are you planning to do? So I'll let Sydney go first, and then Jennell, you're kind of piggyback on that, because what you do kind of will probably play into what he's planning on doing as well.
True story. Actually, probably here soon, probably like January, February of next year. I do plan on going back to school. So by the time he reaches that 4 or 5 year old mark, hopefully I'll be done with school. And I'm actually doing my next career, which would be teaching. Now it all depends on where we end up being. I guess stationed at next versus where we're gonna retire to, because that's what it all kind of banks on, where we're gonna end up staying at is, I guess, how the job markets are gonna look and everything like that. But what I want to do is teach. So that's my, I guess, 5 year outlook plan. Once he's in school and he's doing his little thug dizzle in classes, I can be probably there teaching in the same school that he's gonna be going to, which would be amazing
Yeah,
for me, not
for
him.
you,
No,
maybe not for him.
for me, definitely not for him. But yeah, so that would be my, like, I guess, 5 year goal, is to have my degree in early childhood education. I'm pretty sure by then Jennell should have her stuff, but of course she can answer that. But yeah, that's what I see. That's where I see myself in a few years.
That's awesome, man. I like it.
Okay, so so with the military, as you know, you have to stay very, very flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, you know, uh, on average, they want to see E7s move roughly every 2 to 3 years. And my job, they definitely do move you a little bit more frequently than like if you were a lower rank. But right now, I'm working on my bachelor's in finance. Um, and uh, we I think Sydney and I were kind of having this discussion. If because I do emergency management in the military, so if I were to stay with emergency management, I could easily get a job making $80,000 to $100,000 a year. But if I do financial planning like I want to do, I won't get paid as much necessarily, because I'll be starting all the way over in a new career field. So, um, so I am getting a degree in finance with the intention of being a financial planner. I definitely have a passion for it. As Sydney can tell you, I probably have roped him into more conversations about our finances and future goals and and spending and budgets than he probably wants to participate in.
I'm like, just do it. I don't care.
Literally. So, but I think, and I use this opportunity to kind of do a shameless plug. I think that that people in general, but specifically African Americans, we're not good with money sometimes. So I think that um, financial education and how to budget and how to spend money and how to kind of set yourself up uh, for retirement and how to save for your kids' education and everything else is very important, because I think that everybody wants to do better than what their parents did for them, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
love my mother and dad. They gave me absolutely probably the best childhood that I could have ever hoped for. But I want to do a little bit better for my son, And I think that finances play a huge role in that. Um, I'm definitely passionate about finance. Not to say that I could probably do emergency management for 20 more years, right? But I mean, I wouldn't have as much job fulfillment as I do when I'm talking about, and helping people out with their financial lives and everything else and achieving their financial goals. Um, I think that we downplay how important money is, and if you ever want to know how important money is, just think about how you feel when you're broke or when you're struggling, right? Versus how you feel when your bills are covered and you got a little extra money and you can do things, you can travel around and everything else, right? Just that difference of how you feel and your difference of confidence and your overall outlook of your life is totally different when you're good with, like when you got money and when you don't. Okay, so that's enough about my aspirations as a financial planner.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's practice,
Yeah.
right?
So, but we will probably do one more assignment, and then we're still kicking around where we want to retire at, possibly Vegas, right? Vegas has been there, um, you know, but if we can get back over to Europe, we might retire in Germany, if we can, because DoD teachers make a whole lot more than these teachers stateside, for sure. And I know you know that, Lou. But
I do.
so we're just kind of seeing wherever the Air Force moves us next, and then ultimately it's about, can we secure jobs, both of us secure jobs in what we want to do in the area that we're going to retire in. So that's, I think, for a lot of people who retire, eventually that's their goal. Okay, I need a job, spouse needs a job, and then we want to be in a good school zone for the son, or for your child or your children. So, like I said, we do have a few places in mind, but I think that my immediate goal is to get to retirement,
Okay.
and finish up my degree. So then, at that point, okay, I have a degree and I'm done with my military service. So now I can focus on, okay, what do I want to do? I can make that decision, keeping everybody in mind and making sure that wherever, all of us goes, we can all be okay. Because, like if me and Sydney can find jobs, but we in the hood, I'm not sending little Sydney to a school in the hood. Although I
I
mean it would
understand.
be terrible, but
No,
I don't want to do. I mean, it might build them a little bit of character, but though, like I don't think I wouldn't want to do that. So it's just.
Now, I think both Sydney and I still see you being the chief master sergeant of the Air Force. So what's going to happen is around year 20, what's going to happen for Jennell is she's going to be right there. She's going to be at E8 or just putting on the E9. And they're going to be like, Jennell, we got this special assignment for you. And then Jennell going to be the chief master sergeant of the Air Force. And she'll just still be in.
That'd be gangster right there, bro.
That is not my plan. So I'm glad that y'all have plans for me.
Hey, it's in the stars. If it's in the stars,
but
bro,
my plan is to do my service commitment and get out.
Oh, okay.
but with that, you mentioned moving, and I think that's really, really important because you both have been stateside and you've been overseas, and so with you both kind of sounding like you have an affinity and a little desire there to go back overseas and live some more life outside of the military. What's your sort of favorite story of being abroad as a military person? Because I mentioned earlier that I was going to talk about the story just briefly. I'll just go into it a little bit, and then if Sidney picks up, he can, or he can talk about another story. We went to Milton Keynes. We were in England, and we went to Milton Keynes. It was a last minute thing, and a friend of ours, Reggie, who I'm gonna have a conversation with. I'm working on getting him November because he's been doing great stuff since he's retired too. Reggie was Dr. Colas, and I thought that was amazing. And we got hotels at this really rooms at this really nice hotel. And I didn't know what a Milton Keynes was, but we was there and we stayed at a hotel that was next to an indoor ski slope in England, which I never heard of before in my life. And it was a bunch of Caribbean stuff going on. And then Sidney bought a CD and played this one song 14,000 times in the car on the way back. And I want to say for the next 2 months, every time I rode with Sidney somewhere, he played that same song when we were in the car. And everyone on the trip back from Milton Keynes who was in Sidney's car was like, hey, man, look, man,
My car.
we kind of hate you for
Y'all
playing
want to drink?
this
It's my
song.
car. Go.
so so that was one of the most memorable memories just because of that whole sort of night and situation and everything that went down with that. So Sid, I'll let you go first, and Jennell, you can follow up.
Actually, oh my God. I don't know if I have any. I guess
You want me to go and then come back to you?
you're gonna have to because I probably won't have anything then either. So
Well, okay, so I remember I was in this. I think I was in Spangalum, and it was. I want to say I had like 3 months left before I left and went to Vegas to be with Sydney for good. Um, I went to Rome, and I remember I went by myself, right? And my mom was like freaked out. She was like, "You're traveling by yourself? What's gonna happen to you?" I'm like, "Mom, I'm fine. I'm good, right?" So, um, I mean, I am like a loner. Like I'm really independent. I like my quiet time anyway. So I had a really good trip in Rome. I went and we saw like the Spanish Steps and I saw the Colosseum and it was just so refreshing. Like doing whatever you wanted to do, right? Because it was just me. I was able to. I think I went shopping. I had like a spa day. Like and I went on Ryanair and my tickets were super cheap,
mm-hmm.
like 45 euro, something like that per flight. Like so I mean that's something that's kind of memorable. Now on the more I'm not sure if you're looking for like a drinking story, but
Oh no, it doesn't
okay,
have to be.
I don't really know, but yeah, but like I also
No,
went to the when I was in the when I went to Rome, I went to the Vatican and I did a tour guide led trip in the Vatican and just like went and walked around and saw the Sistine Chapel, all that good stuff. And I was actually raised Catholic, so it was more of a I didn't know it would be such a spiritual experience, but it really is because like I was raised Catholic and like they really it's a lot of history. That's where the Pope is decided on. All that good stuff happens there. So I didn't know how much of a spiritual experience that would be for me. But I would say that like that was kind of like that was the last trip I took before I left Europe for good. So and after that, I came back to work and I was like, all right, I got like 2 months and and I'm on my way out of here. So I think I think it was good because it was like rounding out my entire European experience, and then I was gonna go back to be with my wonderful husband, which at that time I was missing him so much.
What?
that's awesome. Sid, I know you got
I
one,
don't.
man. I
I
know
don't
you
think
got one.
I don't know. Honestly, no. Like I don't have anything that's that memorable. Like
What about the festival museums in Frankfurt when we went there? No, it's not. That's not memorable to you.
no,
No.
no. I'm sorry. It was fun. I went to it every year. Don't get me wrong, but Like I would probably say, like I think 1 year from my birthday when I was, of course, in Germany. That's probably most of the fun ever came from. Um, I was looking for a place to go for my birthday or whatever, and I just couldn't figure out where I wanted to go. I just pulled out a map, and I had it was like a knife, a dart. It was something to where I just threw it towards this map that was on my sofa, and it hit Rotterdam. And I was like, am I gonna fly or drive? And like that was the big decision making on my part right there. So I ended up driving there. It was like probably an 8 hour drive, maybe one way. And I swear that was like the most relaxing like time of my life because you didn't have to worry about people talking. You didn't have to worry about them. Hey, play this. Let's stop here. You like you get sick of that sometimes, but that's why I guess that's why I like to travel by myself a whole lot because you don't have to worry about what other people want to do. You don't have to go, hey, let's stop at this convenience store to get something. Like, nah, I'm gonna keep on going. I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. I just want to get there. And like, and much like you just mentioned, I like to play music over and over again. Um, on the way back from this 8 hour trip, I literally played what song was that? She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy.
Oh my God.
For like 3 straight hours. Like I knew the words, every single word to that song, and I'm not sure why I did it. I just liked it, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put this on repeat.
You shouldn't have said that on a recorded.
Oh, what?
Oh, that's
People-
definitely going live.
If people know me, they know I like this song. I don't care who they are. But that was probably one of the most relaxing, I guess, trips I ever took because the area was so beautiful. Once I got there or whatever, but that's the drive itself. It was amazing. I got to go as fast as I wanted to. No one nagging in my ear telling me to slow down, Jennell. No one saying why is the music so loud. It was just something that I picked to do, and I did it, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
That's awesome. And so before we close out, because it's been an awesome time, I remember one other story where you and I were driving, and this is interesting. Jennell, he was stationed, I think he was at Travis at the time, and we were in California, and we had a friend that was stationed down near Los Angeles. So I flew over to see Sidney, and I'm like, hey man, you want to go to Los Angeles? And he's like, yeah. So we drove from basically Sacramento, Vacaville, if I'm not mistaken, all the way down to I-5 to Los Angeles. And I think we was only there for like 24 hours. I think we just spent the day there, like a day and a night. And then we drove back the next day. And so we chilled with Tyree, and it was cool to hang out down there. And then when we drove back, like we was so tired, or maybe it was just me who was so tired because we were driving and the I-5 like runs in between the mountains and the aqueduct is there. And I kept saying to Sidney, yo, it's a coyote running next to the car. And he kept saying to me, dude, what are you talking about? I'm like, nah, dude, don't move over. It's a coyote. It's in the aqueduct. I was so freaking delusional that day. And every time I saw Sidney or I talked to him after that, he's like, hey man, you see that coyote? I'm like, dude, you know what?
He just kept saying it though.
That's not funny. But I stayed awake the whole time because my thing was, because I think that drive is what, like 5-6 hours,
yeah,
right?
it was.
And so I was like, yo, man, my grandmother told me, like, yo, the best thing that a person in the front seat, a passenger, should do is stay awake for the driver, because if you fall asleep, that might be the last time you wake up. So you want to make sure you awake
good
with
advice
the driver.
right there, but that'll never work.
Grandma don't play, grandma been around for almost 90 years. So anyways, so I was staying up, and I'm telling you, I swear, to this day, I swear I saw a coyote running next to the car. Now, Sidney was driving like 80 miles an hour, and I'm saying the coyote running next to us at 80 miles an hour. So, I mean, I don't really have a good reason for saying that. But I remember that vividly, because he and I are very similar like that. Because I mean, our birthdays are a week apart, so we got a lot of spontaneous similarities there. And so I wanted to say that to lead into like a what that showed for me is the military creates or helps create relationships that can last a really long time if you want them to last a long time, and it can take you all around the world. And so I'm appreciative of that. And I mean, so like I would have never met Jennell if I didn't meet Sidney, and I'm happy because I remember seeing Sid when he was. I remember when he told me about Jennell and you, and just sort of the energy he had from him. So with that, I appreciate the education that you dropped on people. You talked about parenthood. You talked about the military, which should all these things should be more attractive to people. So I leave the final word to all the guests that I talk to, and I say, do you have any final words that you want to leave with people before we close out the conversation? And obviously, you're always invited to join on a different topic, but I wanted to focus on the military life. And so with that, Jennell or Sidney, either one of you can go first, but I'll leave the final words to you on anything you want to leave the listeners with.
Oh, Lord. It'll probably be, I think Jennell mentioned it earlier, stay-at-home parents. Yeah, I honestly don't think a lot of stay-at-home parents get the, I guess, the appreciation or the appreciation that they should. Um, it is not an easy job whatsoever. But being a stay-at-home dad, it's even harder, I think, because people look at you and they're like, how come the mom isn't staying home? How come you're not working for your family? How come this? Sometimes when I go to the store and I always see some old lady, oh God, and they always say the same thing. Oh, you're playing dad today, or oh, you're giving mom a break for once. And I look at him like, chick, don't you know this boy woke me up at 2 o'clock in the freaking morning just to say hi? Like, I am with this child every day of my of my life, of his don't life. And it's just that people should appreciate a stay-at-home parent. No matter what they have going on, they are there for that child. The working spouse comes home, and there's food on the table. If there isn't food on the table, there's like food that's been ordered that's going to be coming there pretty soon. So yeah, I just want to say people should appreciate stay-at-home parents more, but they should appreciate stay-at-home dads even more. Yeah.
Okay, I understand it. I really do respect that, because I think that's a significant life decision a man has to make in a hypersexual society where men have specific roles they're supposed to quote unquote play. Jennell?
So I'll add to what he said. I think from a marriage perspective, right? I think especially with military, and post-military life, I think that
As you can see, there was a technical issue with completing the final thought for Jennell. It was a technical issue on my end. I will tell you that it was a very profound and thought-provoking final thought. My apologies to Jennell and Sidney for the error and issue that existed. I will again compliment them and say that they were fantastic guests, and I am very appreciative of their contribution. With that, have a fantastic day, and I appreciate your listenership.